Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. It is Good Tuesday News Day. It's the day of the week where we cover the good news we can find for the week on either Tuesday or that's been happening all week. And we're going to tell you about it so you can keep the world positive and refreshing instead of just depressing and gloomy. This is Before Coffee, the comprehensive news of Planet Earth podcast, where me and my dad look up the news 10 to 15 minutes before we've started and we haven't had any caffeine. So, let's get into these headlines for today. Today on Before Coffee, eco-tour grizzlies less likely to encounter conflict with humans, British Columbia study suggests.
Cephalopods pass cognitive tests designed for human children.
Iraq's PM Al Sudani visits UK as Kurdish-Iraqi tensions escalate.
Supreme Court allows Hawaii climate change lawsuits against energy companies to move forward.
In culture news, Michael Sheen is to fund a new Welsh National Theatre.
And it's National Dress Up Your Pet Day. That's right, piss off your cat or dog by throwing some clothes on them on January 14th, 2025 on Before Coffee.
I'd love when we have some really weird national days. It's just like, yeah, we're going to celebrate this. Why? I don't know. We just are. And speaking of oddities, I guess, well, not really oddities, but it's good news coming out of Nature. This is from Brennan Owen on the Canadian Press. Grizzly bears that visited ecotourism areas along a river on the province's central coast were less likely than others to encounter conflict with people in communities downstream, a new study by British Columbia-based researchers has found. Grizzly bears that visit ecotourism areas along a river on the province's central coast were less likely than others to encounter conflict with people in communities downstream. Wait, why does it repeat it twice? Jason Moody with the Nuaxalk Nation's Fisheries and Wildlife Program said the research shows ecotourism done right is not a driving factor in conflict between bears and humans. The findings are pretty clear that if you're viewing bears in the right way, it does not predispose them to bear-human conflicts later on, said Moody, who contributed to the study and runs an eco-tour operation based in Bella Coola. Stories, songs, and dances passed down through the generations show that Nuaxalks and the other First Nations along British Columbia's coast have long coexisted with bears, he said. It goes back centuries, if not thousands of years. Relationship with the bears, and we really identify them in part of the Great Bear Rainforest. But Moody said human activity, particularly in combination with poor salmon runs, has increasingly pushed grizzly bears into conflict with people. The study published today on the 14th of January in the Canadian Journal of Zoology emerged from the question of whether bears that visited ecotourism areas might be accustomed to people and predisposed to conflict, lead author Kate Field said in an interview. Yeah, this is a problem people always talk about when it comes to wild animals. You know, don't hang out with them too much because they'll get used to you and they might get a little too friendly for your own good. I mean, the human's greatest strength is their brains, not their ability to fight a bear. So... Some studies have linked tourist-related behavior changes in wildlife, such as a tolerance to humans, with increased boldness, Kate Field has said. But Field said the British Columbia-based study reached a different conclusion in the context of ecotourism in the Bella Coola Valley. It found grizzlies that visit ecotourism areas along the Atnarco River, which feeds into the Bella Coola River, were less likely than the other bears to encounter conflict with people in communities about 40 to 60 kilometers downstream of the coast. The study used the sampling to identify 118 different grizzlies along the river, with Field describing the banks as DNA libraries cataloging bear movement. Each strand is fur is a breadcrumb on Each strand of fur is a breadcrumb on a bear trail, said Field, a doctoral candidate at the University of Victoria. The researchers gathered samples during late summer and fall salmon runs from 2019 to 2021 and identified 34 bears that visited the ecotourism area at least once. They compared the samples against conflict samples from captured or euthanized bears collected by the BC Conservation Officer Service and found just one of those bears went on to have conflict with people in Bella Coola Valley. The other 29 bears that came into conflict with people were not detected at hair sampling sites in ecotourism areas along the Narco River, the study found. So, this pattern suggests the ecotour bears are not commonly encountering conflict, or at least in a special context, Field said. The raw data alone suggested that a match was rare, but it didn't consider the possible explanation that the population of grizzlies that did not visit the ecotourism area were much larger than the populations of bears that did. Field said the researchers used a probability approach to ask how large the population of a non-ecotour bears area would have to be in order to observe the same level in probability of conflict by chance. So they did more of a statistics than an actual, count by count study here. They found that non-ecotour bear population would have to be 674, close to double the highest population estimate, the study says. So there actually aren't currently 600 bears running around British Columbia, but if there were, they would encounter humans and possibly get into altercations with them. The bears detected at ecotourism sites were therefore less likely than predicted by chance to encounter conflict with humans downstream, the paper concluded. The study points to the other human-caused drivers of conflict between people and bears, such as fruit trees and salmon cleaning stations that attract hungry grizzlies. Moody said that Welsh Nation works to reduce conflict through measures such as installing electric fencings around salmon processing sites during harvest season. But the overall availability of salmon in a given year is also a major factor contributing to conflict between bears and humans. And Moody says that's one of the many motivations behind the nation's work to restore and protect salmon runs. Let's make enough salmon for everyone, including the bears.
Yeah.
Grizzlies go after garbage, compost, and other foods associated with humans when there's not enough food available for them in the wild, Moody says. What we've been seeing is a trend, which is when you have good peak salmon runs, the conflict in communities in the valley throughout the private property as well goes down. Just completely, almost completely disappear, he said. The bears have no reason to take any risk and cross people's yards or highways. The fish have filled up a small creek and the tributaries, and the bears are able to stay in some of the forest cover that's still left for them without taking any risks. Maybe also build more forests for the bears, it sounds like. Fields also pointed to an earlier British-based study that found killings of grizzlies by conservation officers or in conflict with private citizens were 20% higher for each 50% decrease in annual salmon biomass. So for every half decrease, there's more conflicts with conservation officers and private citizens. Just give these guys, maybe stop fishing so much as well. That's an option. I know it's crazy to ask humans to consume less, but it's possible. If salmon aren't available to bears, they might go searching for food elsewhere. So it really underlies the importance of safeguarding salmon. The study says ecotourism occurs in areas of high spawning activity along the Narco River, and researchers speculate bears can access the salmon they need without needing to venture into downstream communities in search of food. This report was first published on the 14th, which is today, so we're right on time for learning about the Canadian grizzlies and how just give them fish. It sounds like you just need to give them some fish. You know how back in like the primitive days, humans would have altars and give, penance to these altars in order to please the nature gods or whatever. That's what we need to do. Just give the bears salmon. They'll leave me
That's
alone.
what I remember.
I remember those times.
I remember when the invention of fire came along. That was so special.
Yeah, you were there, I think. But that's my story on bears.
Wheel made things easier. Yeah.
Not attacking humans and getting their fish. Onto your story.
All right. Yeah, we need more grizzlies. Just to balance out nature, man. We need predators. Just need something to be scared of too, right?
Yeah.
We keep inventing things to be
grizzlies.
scared of, right? Like Bigfoot. Yeah, like Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Oh, Bigfoot's real.
You know what's real? A grizzly
Yeah,
bear's giant claw hand. That's what's real.
That's right. The grizzly shall be respected. Okay, on to more science. This is from ScienceAlert.com. Michelle Starr with more good news. I guess it's good news. It's good news because we always think we're smart and no other animal could possibly be smart. I don't know what that is. It's some kind of, there's probably some term for it. Well, I know something, you couldn't possibly know it. Right? What is that term? I forget. There's a term for it. It's called being really, really caught up in your own intelligence, even though most people are smarter than you. I know it's not the Dunning-Kruger effect, but it's close. It's close, right? People aren't as smart as they think they are. Back in 2021, a test of cephalopods March reinforced how important it is for us humans not to underestimate animal intelligence. Cuttlefish were given a new version of the marshmallow test, and the results may demonstrate that there's more going on in their strange little brains than we know. Their ability to learn and adapt, the researchers said, could have evolved to give cuttlefish an edge in the cutthroat eat or be eaten marine world they live in. Cuttlefish can also change their body's color patterns to camouflage their signal. Bet you probably already knew that. The marshmallow test, or Stanford marshmallow experiment, is pretty straightforward. A child is placed in a room with a marshmallow. They are told if they can manage not to eat the marshmallow for 15 minutes, they'll get a second marshmallow and allowed to eat both. This ability to delay gratification demonstrates cognitive abilities such as future planning, and it was originally conducted to study how human cognition develops. Specifically, at which age a human is smart enough to delay gratification if it means a better outcome later. Because it's so simple, it can be adjusted for animals. Obviously, you can't tell an animal that they'll get a better reward if they wait, but you can train them to understand that better food is coming if they don't eat the food in front of them straight away. Some primates can delay gratification along with dogs, albeit inconsistently. Corvids, too, have passed the marshmallow test. I'm not sure what a corvid is. It sounds like a car. And 2020 cuttlefish also passed a version of marshmallow test. Scientists showed that common cuttlefish, or Sepia officinalis, can refrain from eating a meal of crab meat in the morning once they have learnt dinner will be something they like much better: shrimp. Shrimp for dinner, woo! However, as a team of researchers led by behavioral ecologist Alexandra Schnell of the University of Cambridge pointed out, in this case, it was difficult to determine whether this change in foraging behavior in response to prey availability was also being governed by an ability to exert self-control. So they designed another test for 6 common cuttlefish. The cuttlefish were placed in a special tank with 2 enclosed chambers that had transparent doors so the animals could see inside. In the chambers were snacks, a less preferred piece of raw king prawn in one, and a much more enticing live grass shrimp on the other. The doors also had symbols on them that the cuttlefish had been trained to recognize. A circle meant the door would open straight away. A triangle meant the door would open after a time interval between 10 and 130 seconds. And a square used only in a control condition meant the door stayed closed indefinitely. In the test condition, the prawn was placed behind the open door while the live shrimp was only accessible after a delay. If the cuttlefish went for the prawn, the shrimp was immediately removed. Meanwhile, in the control group, the shrimp remained inaccessible behind the square symbol door that wouldn't open. The researchers found that all of the cuttlefish in the test condition decided to wait for their preferred food, the live shrimp, but didn't bother to do so in the control group where they couldn't access it. Cuttlefish in this present study were all able to wait for the better reward and tolerated delays for up to 50 to 130 seconds, which is comparable to what we see in large-brained vertebrates such as chimpanzees, crows, and parrots. You large-brained vertebrae, you. The other part of the experiment was to test how good the 6 cuttlefish were at learning. They were shown 2 different visual ones. visual cues, a gray square and a white one. When they approached one, the other one would be removed from the tank. If they made the correct choice, they would be rewarded with a snack. Once they had learned to associate the square with a reward, the researchers switched the cues so that the other square now became the reward cue. Interestingly, the cuttlefish that learned to adapt to this change the quickest were also the cuttlefish that were able to wait longer for the shrimp reward. That seems like cuttlefish can exert self-control, all right, but what's not clear is why. In species such as parrots, primates, and corvids, delayed gratification has been linked to factors such as tool use because it requires planning ahead, food caching, and social competence because pro-social behavior such as making sure everyone has food benefits a social species. Cuttlefish, as far as we know, don't use tools or cache food, nor are they especially social. The researchers think this ability to delay gratification may instead have something to do with the way cuttlefish forage for their food. Cuttlefish spent most of their time camouflaging, sitting and waiting, punctuated by brief periods of foraging, Schnell said at the time. They break camouflage when they forage, so they're exposed to every predator in the ocean that wants to eat them. We speculate that delayed gratification may have evolved as a byproduct of this, so the cuttlefish can optimize foraging by waiting to choose better quality food. It's a fascinating example of how different lifestyles in different species can result in similar behaviors and cognitive abilities. Evidence of episodic-like memory has been found in cuttlefish, and in 2024, scientists reported the first observation of the creature forming false memories. Future research should, the team noted, try to determine if indeed cuttlefish are capable of planning for the future. That's right, cuttlefish are smarter than we believe. Of course, we never believe anything is smart because we're all full of ourselves, but we're a long way from communicating with them, but we know they have a functional brain and can sense what rewards are or something like that. But it's still good news that we're learning that animals are smart, quite smart. Back to you.
Well, let's go on to my next story, which is about Iraq. Now, of course, the Middle East has always been full of a bunch of bullshit happening and people getting in arguments and saying, I'm not going to do that, and I'm going to do that, and you suck. But this time, it looks like we have something good happening between the UK and Iraq. This is on The New Arab by Dana Taib Menmi, coming out of Iraq. Al Sudani's visit to the UK comes amid tensions with the KRG over unpaid salaries and oil revenues, with Kurdish parties threatening to exit Iraq's political process. The visit is set to focus on economic security and cultural cooperation. Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani is expected to arrive in the United Kingdom for an official visit yesterday, actually, so he already did arrive on the 13th of January, aimed at strengthening bilateral ties and escalating tensions with the Kurdish regional government, KRG, over oil revenue and public salaries. The visit, announced by al-Sudani's media officer, is set to focus on economic, security, and cultural cooperation. During the trip, al-Sudani is scheduled to meet King Charles III and hold discussions with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. He will also engage with senior British officials, business leaders, and research institutions to bolster academic and policy partnerships. Writing in the Telegraph on Sunday, which was the 12th of January, al-Sudani's highlighted the potential of the UK-Iraq partnership and underscored Iraq's progress towards stability. He called for international support to address challenges in the Middle East, including new government in Syria, and emphasized the need to protect minorities and Syria's diverse social fabric. Al-Sudani's agenda includes efforts to attract British investment in Iraq's oil and gas fields, such as Rumaila and Kirkuk, as well as renewable energy projects. He is also expected to announce multi-billion-dollar infrastructure projects, including the development of Road Initiative, which aims to establish Iraq as a global trade hub linking East and West. Additional discussions will cover collaboration in technology, defense, and education. Accompanying the Iraqi Prime Minister is a high-level delegation of ministers, parliamentarians, and the governor of Basra, and private sector representatives, reflecting Iraq's commitment to fostering comprehensive cooperation with the UK. Al Sudani's visit coincides with the high tensions between Baghdad and the KRG over stalled employee salaries and oil revenues. Nekivran Barzani, president of the Kurdistan region, visited Baghdad on the 12th of January evening to address the long-standing dispute over employee salaries, which have been stalled for months. Barzani met with Iraqi leaders, including Al Sudani and Speaker of Parliament Mahmoud al-Mashhadani. A joint statement emphasized that the salary issue is unrelated to political agendas. However, tensions remain high after Kurdish officials hinted at withdrawing from Iraq's political process due to Baghdad's failure to release the funds. KRG official accused Baghdad of failing to release funds allocated in the federal budget, with KRG spokesperson Peshwa Haramani alleging that Iraq's Ministry of Finance has ignored a federal Supreme Court ruling on salary payments. The Kurdistan Democratic Party, KDP, meanwhile, is advocating for the resumption of oil exports to Turkey without Baghdad's approval, a move critics could say destabilizes the region. So, on the 13th of January, the KRG accused Baghdad of attempting to seize control of Kirkuk's Kurmala oil fields, a major production site accounting for 1/3 of the region's oil output. Control of the field has been a point of contention since KDP took over its operation in 2008. The KRG has cited Articles 140 and 112 of Iraq's 2005 Constitution, which outline the management of disputed territories and revenue-sharing frameworks. Baghdad, however, is accused of bypassing these provisions, particularly the referendum mandated under Article 140 for Kirkuk and other disputed areas. The deadline for the referendum passed 2 decades ago, further complicating the issue. The Iraqi Ministry of Finance has defended its adherence to the 2023 federal general budget law, stating it has disbursed 9.55 trillion dinars, which is around $7.3 billion, for KRG employee salaries, pensions, and social welfare programs. The ministry has accused KRG of failing to deliver non-oil revenues amounting to $4.35 trillion dinars, which is around $3.3 billion, as required by law. Additionally, Baghdad has criticized the KRG for not implementing salary localization measures to regularize payments. So, what does this mean for the good news? Well, Al Sudani's UK visit underscores Iraq's effort to strengthen international ties while navigating internal challenges. The outcome of his discussion with British leaders could shape Iraq's global standing and its ability to manage domestic disputes. The KRG, in a statement, reaffirmed its commitment to defending the constitutional right and prioritizing the welfare of its people, including those in Kirkuk. Meanwhile, Britain's engagement highlights its interest in promoting stability in the region. As Al Sudani balances diplomacy abroad and political tensions at home, his leadership faces a critical test: the interplay between securing international partnership and resolving internal discord will likely define Iraq's trajectory in the months ahead. But it does look like they have said, or the Prime Minister has said, that he is very, very focused on securing good ties with the UK and signing deals with them, which can help, like they said, stabilize Iraq as a global economy instead of an internal dispute in the Middle East that's constantly, just causing conflict with other countries, or in this case, other regional governments within their established national border. But it's good news because it looks like they will be able to see what they can do with these things. They're also talking about migrant returns to reduce the number of Iraqis crossing the channel in small boats, because if you can stabilize the Middle East region, all these people in the UK can stop complaining about immigrants crossing the channel. And I guess that's mostly good news. It is good news to not have to have refugees, I think, and asylum seekers. That's always good news in my book.
It's good news if Iraq gets straightened out.
Yeah.
the cradle of civilization, as they call it.
Mesopotamia, one of the oldest
confluence-
civilizations, yeah.
Yeah, well, the confluence of the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers. Okay,
That's my
so
story.
Is it my turn? Is it my
Yeah.
story? Okay, my story is concerning energy companies and how they lie to us. The Supreme Court, this is from CBSNews.com, Melissa Quinn. The Supreme Court Monday said it will not consider whether to quash lawsuits brought by Honolulu seeking billions of dollars from oil and gas companies for the damage caused by the effects of climate change, clearing the way for the cases to move forward. The legal battle pursued in Hawaii State Court is similar to others filed against the nation's largest energy companies by state and local governments in their courts. The suits claim that the oil and gas industry engaged in deceptive campaign and misled the public about the dangers of their fossil fuel products and the environmental impacts. A group of 15 energy companies asked the Supreme Court to review a decision from the Hawaii Supreme Court that allows a lawsuit brought by the city and county of Honolulu as well as the Board of Water Supply to proceed. The suit was brought in Hawaii State Court in March 2020, and Honolulu raised several claims under state law, including creating a public nuisance and failure to warn the public of the risks posed by their fossil fuel products. The city accused the oil and gas industry of contributing to global climate change, leading to flooding, erosion, and more frequent and intense extreme weather events. These changes, they said, have led to property damage and a drop in tax revenue as a result of the less tourism. The energy companies unsuccessfully sought to have the case moved to federal court, arguing that the claims raised by Honolulu under state law were overridden by federal law and the Clean Air Act. I love how the energy companies are trying to use the Clean Air Act in their defense, right? A state trial court denied their efforts to dismiss the case. The oil and gas industry has argued that greenhouse gas emissions flow from billions of daily choices over more than a century by governments, companies, and individuals about what types of fuels to use and how to use them. Honolulu, the company said, was seeking damages for the cumulative effect of worldwide emissions leading to global climate change. The Hawaii Supreme Court ultimately allowed the lawsuit to proceed. The state's highest court determined that the Clean Air Act displaced federal common law governing suits seeking damages for interstate pollution. It also rejected the oil company's argument that Honolulu was seeking to regulate emissions through its lawsuit, finding that the city instead wanted to challenge the promotion and sale of fossil fuel products without warning and abetted by the sophisticated disinformation campaign. Plaintiffs' state tort law claims do not seek to regulate emissions, and there is no actual conflict between Hawaii tort law and Clean Air Act. We're not trying to regulate emissions, they're telling you, the court. They say, we are not trying to regulate emissions. We are just tired of being lied to. Anyway, the actual conflict between Hawaii tort law and Clean Air Act, the Supreme Court ruled, these claims potentially regulate marketing conduct, while the CAA regulates pollution. Right. We're talking about marketing. We're not talking about pollution. We know you pollute, but you lie about it. The oil companies asked the U.S. Supreme Court to review the ruling from Hawaii High Court and urged it to stop Honolulu's lawsuit from going forward. Regulation of interstate pollution is a federal area governed by federal law, lawyers for the energy industry argued. It's not trying to regulate interstate pollution there, guys. We're trying to regulate lying. These energy companies are a little confused. Rarely does a case of such extraordinary importance to one of the nation's most vital industries come before this court, lawyers for the companies said in a filing. Energy companies that produce, sell, and market fossil fuels are facing numerous lawsuits in state courts across the nation seeking billions of dollars in damages for injuries allegedly caused by global climate change. Oh no, we're going to lose money. Well, you should diversify and stop lying. How about that? Diversify into clean energy and stop lying about your pollution. There's your solution. Don't sit there and blame people. The oil and gas companies argue the case raises a recurring question of extraordinary importance to the energy industry, and one they urged to the Supreme Court addressed. What's the question? In these cases, state and local governments are attempting to assert control over the nation's energy policies by holding energy companies liable for worldwide conduct in ways that starkly conflict with the policies and priorities of the federal government, they said. That flouts this court's precedents and basic principles of federalism, and the court should put a stop to it. Well, they didn't. They said, we're going to ignore this case. Lawyers for Honolulu said in a filing that the case seeks to hold the oil and gas industry accountable under Hawaii law for deliberately concealing and misrepresenting climate change impacts of their fossil fuel products. Its lawsuit, the city continued, does not interfere with the Environmental Protection Agency's authority to regulate greenhouse gas emissions. Honolulu's legal team accused the oil and gas companies of pushing a theory in the case that improperly attempts to cloak the former federal common law of interstate pollution in constitutional garb with no foundation in the Constitution's text or history. The Supreme Court in June asked the Biden administration to weigh in on the cases and whether it should step into the dispute. In a filing submitted to the Supreme Court before the transfer of presidential power, the Biden administration urged the justices to turn away the appeals, in part because it said it's too soon for them to intervene. And there's your story from Melissa Quinn of CBS News about Hawaii and their lawsuit moving forward.
Well, that's good for them because it's really, these companies can't get away with this shit, honestly. Like, oh, we didn't cause any problems. We're perfect. Yeah, okay, sure. Taking a bunch of stuff out of the earth didn't cause any issues. Yeah, they're saying,
yeah, we lied about it, but that's the federal government's thing to rein us in. And we've bought all the politicians.
We were self-regulating. Wait, are you telling me self-regulation doesn't work?
Yeah, now we gotta go buy Hawaii politicians. Damn it. It's not good enough to buy every federal
bribing all of
these
people. It's too much.
Oh, they can afford it. They can afford it.
They don't want to spend on it, I guess that's what I should say. In culture news...
justify it by raising our prices.
Yeah.
So they'll do like, we gotta raise our prices because of our incompetence and lying. And it's all your fault, not ours.
Yeah, we should have tried better. We should have helped them lie better. Michael Sheen is to fund a new Welsh National Theatre. This is from Johnny Walfitz on Euronews Culture. Following a £1.6 million cut in its funding by Arts Council Wales last month in the National Theatre Wales, that's 1.9 million euros. The National Theatre Wales announced its closures. Now, Good Omens actor Michael Sheen has revealed he will personally pay for its replacement. Sheen will also be the theatre's artistic director when it opens in the second half of 2026. The 55-year-old Welsh actor will help its funding, but has said that the theater is also on the lookout for private and public funding. I mean, it's like, yeah, I'll pay for the thing, but we need the community to give a shit, not just me. Welsh theatre makers, Welsh stories, and Welsh actors will be put on the forefront of the venture. I want it to be something that represents the rich culture that we have, and always have been in this country, Sheen added. Well, Wales was, of course, the longest-standing nation, I should say kingdom, to resist Danish overcoming, the Danish invading them, taking them over. Mostly because they were very small and nobody cared about them. They're over there. They were very strong warriors, don't get me wrong. They did fight them off, but the hills of the Welsh valleys are quite hard to fight on, so they had the environment on their side as well. News of this new theater in response to the closure of Cardiff-based NTW comes after a recent damning report found that Wales is behind all but 3 European nations in its spending on sport and culture. Wales' parliamentary report found that in its analysis of European countries, Wales was ahead of only Poland and Latvia in terms of funding for recreation and in sport. In terms of cultural spending, Wales was second worst, only ahead of Greece. Does Greece even need to spend money on culture? Isn't just being in Greece culture enough? I don't know. Maybe as somebody who went to Athens, maybe Athens spends a lot of money on culture, but the whole country in total doesn't. That's probably what it is. All right, where were we? I lost my place. Only ahead of Greece. Iceland and Luxembourg are the two biggest spenders of the two categories. The combined spend across the UK, but put the 4 nations at 5th from the bottom. The Welsh figures put spending across culture and sport at 17%, lower in real terms than it was a decade ago from 2014 to 2015. Culture and sport are vital threads in the fabric of what makes life worth living. They enrich the human experience and not merely luxuries, but to be enjoyed during times of plenty, said played Cymru politician Delyth Jewell, who chaired the committee that made the report. That's like the Welsh Nationalist Party. Without significant changes, Wales risks being left behind in cultural and sporting achievements, endangering our national character and the well-being of our communities, she added. Theatre funding across the UK is in a perilous position. Just across the border from Wales, the capital, Cardiff, the Bristol Old Vic last week announced plans to scrape its undergraduate theatre degrees. Oh no. Bristol's Old Vic Theatre School alumni includes Daniel Day-Lewis and Olivia Colman, among many of the UK's most celebrated actors. Founded in 1946, the undergraduate program is now financially unsustainable and will be stopped in September this year. Other actors who have come through the Bristol Old Vic include Jeremy Irons, Naomi Harris, Josh O'Connor, Patrick Stewart, Mark Strong, Gene Wilder, and Olivia Williams. Oh my god, maybe they should donate some money to keep it on. What the hell? Caps on student fees, restrictions to international student visas, and cuts in grants as expenses have risen have all been cited for the cut for the program. Bristol Old Vic will continue to run its postgraduate course in acting. So I guess you have to go somewhere else for the undergrad, and then you can go there for the postgrad. I guess, if it's even worth. Is it worth going there for a postgrad? I don't know. I have a master's in acting and theater. Go for it. I mean, degrees mean nothing these days. We've completely delegitimized them as anything. You have to have 15 degrees now to get a job.
Tom Jones, man.
Yeah.
Tom Jones is Welsh. Did he contribute money?
I don't think it just says only Michael Sheen has, so I'm not sure if there's other people who have donated to the Welsh National Theatre. Like he said, right? He's looking for more funding from private and public. So, but it doesn't look like there's any. For now, it's just the news is that he's opening it, right? That this is kind of the call to action right here. If you have money, you care about Welsh theatre, please donate to the Welsh National Theatre so they can also play their own Welsh, and probably in Welsh too, because a lot of people still speak Welsh. It's actually really inspiring how they keep the Welsh language alive there. Some Welsh theater in Welsh. You gotta keep that alive. You can't let it die.
Art is valuable. Art is valuable,
yes,
especially
sure.
Homegrown art.
And Wales is definitely needs help with that.
If you don't think art is valuable, look at the Nazis. Even the Nazis, they looted art. That's what they did because they knew it was valuable.
Okay. Happy Good News Days. Here's some Nazi trivia.
Well, I'm just saying that fascism lives when there's no art. It's just.
You're right. You take it away from people, and they just all they have to do is listen to the government. They don't have any self-expression anymore, and they become tools of the fascist machine.
Yep, the United States. Yep.
Not that Wales is at any risk of becoming a fascist.
There's a man in a dress.
I haven't talked to any Welsh people and asked them, but I don't think they're in a threat of fascism just yet. But they do need more funding. So I guess if you can't do it yourself, maybe you know somebody. Maybe you know some rich guy who's like, what do I do with these $1 billion? Give them to the National Theatre in Wales. And that's my culture story. Some bright hope, shining star for Michael Sheen for the National Theatre. And on to this day in history.
No relation to Charlie Sheen, I believe.
No, those are two different people.
Probably not.
No, Charlie is not from Wales.
Charlie Sheen's, their real name is Estevez anyway. Right. Emilio Estevez kept his original last name. All right, I guess we're into this day in history, January 14th. On January 14th, the treaty in 1526, the Treaty of Madrid was signed by the Habsburg Emperor Charles V, or as he was also known, Charles I of Spain. and his prisoner, Francis the First, King of France. Oh yeah, here's your treaty, prisoner. Better sign it. Who had been captured. Francis I had been captured at the Battle of Pavia in February 1525 and held prisoner until the conclusion of the treaty, when he was allowed to return to France. So France lost another war in 1526. 1780, sorry, France. 1784, the Continental Congress ratified the Peace of Paris, speaking of France, with the Great Britain, which recognized the independence of the United States. So France was on the winning side in that war, in the Revolutionary American Revolution. And there was no winning side on the French Revolution, of course, but of course, Napoleon commenced to conquering most of Europe, didn't he? So he showed you. 1861, on this day, Mohammed VI, the last Sultan of the Ottoman Empire, was born. So happy birthday to him, I guess. 1941, American actress Faye Dunaway was born, so she's turning 84 today. Who is known for her tense, absorbing performances? Chinatown is a really good movie with Faye Dunaway in it. Chinatown with Jack Nicholson. 1954, baseball player Joe DiMaggio married actress Marilyn Monroe in City Hall in San Francisco. That marriage did not last. 1970, Diana Ross and the Supremes staged their final concert as Ross subsequently embarked on a solo career. She got too big for the group. She did, and she was building resentment, so it was time to go. 1997, Greek archaeologists announced that they had discovered an ancient site in Athens. They may have been Aristotle's Lyceum. All right, did we visit that? I don't know if we did or not. We probably just stumbled over it and didn't notice. At least I didn't. In 2005, the Huygens entry probe landed on Saturn's largest moon, Titan. It marked the first time a spacecraft landed on a planetary surface in the outer solar system. Way to go, humans, I guess. 2011, Tunisian President Zain Al-Abidine Ben Ali stepped down following a mass protest against poverty, unemployment, and political repression. The uprising is known as the Jasmine Revolution, and of course the beginning of what was then called the Arab Spring, which sprung up in several places, including Egypt. In 2024, after 52 years on the throne, Queen Margrethe II of Denmark abdicated, and her eldest son, Crown Prince Frederick, became King Frederick X. There been 10 Fredericks. 10 of them, by golly. And our featured event, in the year 1900, on this day, the premiere of Giacomo Puccini's opera Tosca. The opera Tosca, a psychological drama of deceit and doubt, composed by Giacomo Puccini. One of the greatest exponents of operatic realism, made its world premiere. So if you're in opera, big day in 1900. Our featured biography, Albert Schweitzer, Austrian German theologian and physician. Albert Schweitzer, who performed the first heart transplant, pretty sure. He was born January 14th, 1875 in Kaiserberg, Germany, and he died September 4th in 1965 at the age of 90. And Lamberine Gamon, yeah, he would get that way the hell out of Germany, didn't he? But he lived to be 90. And our other birthdays today, 1925 is the birthday of Mashima Yokio, Japanese author. We did Faye Dunaway. British physician and serial killer Harold Shipman's birthday. Got to remember them serial killers. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's not this day in history without celebrating those guys. Thank God they were born, huh?
That's right. Happy birthday. Yeah, happy birthday to a guy who just killed people or minded their own business. Yay! Whatever. Britannica's fascination with serial killers never stops. 1963 is the birthday of Steven Soderbergh, American film director. I had no idea he was younger than me, but he is. And it's LL Cool J's birthday, American rapper and actor. He was born in 1968. And what day is it? It's other than Good Tuesday News Day, it's also National Hot Pastrami Sandwich Day.
Hell yeah. You make a good hot pastrami sandwich of some sort. The Roger sandwich. I was talking about this the other day, actually. Fun enough.
Yeah, it's kind of a, it's kind of a Reuben sandwich, but I use pastrami and lots of butter.
Yeah, so much. It's more butter than sandwich, really.
It's a butter sandwich. It's also a National Dress Up Your Pet Day, so I'm sure your pet just loves putting on them clothes. Oh yeah, it's like,
they're not overheated whatsoever.
What is this? Right. It's National Shop for Travel Day. So if you're going on a trip, make sure you take all that crap you're going to be hauling on the plane for some reason. Just sleep on the plane, man. And Ratification Day is January 14th. I'm not sure what ratification of. It might have been the 14th Amendment. Let's see. Let's Ratification Day and figure out what it is. Ratification Day, end of the American Revolution. The day commemorates the ratification of the Treaty of Paris, which we just talked about. So there you go. The ratification of the Treaty of Paris this day in 1784. So it's been, 239 years, something like that. Right,
almost
241 years. There's the math for you.
Yeah, almost the 250.
241 years since the ratification. So those your days, those your birthdays, that's your history. January 14th, 2025 on Before Hot Pastrami Sandwiches.
Man, I wish I could find pastrami here. It's very rare meat. I think I have to go to like a special butcher or something to find pastrami. Not sure why.
Go to the deli.
Not sure why. But this has been Ali here from the Netherlands, and of course Raj from the west coast of the US, as we tie up this Good Tuesday News Day. I hope you feel a little more positive energy in the world, because those grizzly bears are not attacking humans, and Hawaii is suing a company for lying. You know, you gotta celebrate the little victories in the world. Iraq might not be a terrible country in the Middle East. And what else are we talking about? Oh yeah, we talked about cuttlefish learning that they have brains. Humans discovering cuttlefish have brains. Yes, that's right. That's all the news we have for you for today. Next episode tomorrow will be Wacky and Weird Wednesday, which I already have one wacky weird story already in the queue here since Monday. So we'll hopefully we'll find some more wacky and weird things going on tomorrow, and also that happened today, and maybe even over the weekend. Right. So make sure you're subscribed, turn on that notification bell on YouTube, and of course, like this video and comment down below if you would like to sue a company for lying to you. Let us know which company is lying to you, and we'll start that class action lawsuit quickly and efficiently. All right, let's end up the show with our Bob Dylan themed mic drop moment.
A man you don't meet every day, and that you're lucky to meet if you ever do.
Bob Dylan has been, one of my best friends.
Yeah, yet again, gone too soon. If only he could live to be 1,000.
He and Bob had a lot of good ideas to exchange because they come from entirely different places. But Jimmy and I basically come from the same spot.
There were tears in the eyes of Mr. Carter's aides when the presidential jet went out of its way to fly over the White House one last time. In planes, Mr. Carter made his first public statement since the freeing of the hostages.
Just a few moments ago, on Air Force One, before we landed at Warner Robins, I had received word officially for the first time that the aircraft carrying the 52 American hostages had cleared Iranian airspace on the first leg of a journey home, and that every one of the 52 hostages was alive, was well, and free.
Wasn't there also a movie about this?
In a peaceful way with humility.
Didn't they also write a movie about this?
This is a movie. This is from the documentary Jimmy Carter, Rock and Roll President.
No, I mean a biopic. I swear they did like a biopic about the actual people who freed the hostages.
Okay.
No idea.
And where you from? I want to start here and kind of on the front. And where you from? Maryland. California. South Dakota. California, I'll say. Texas. North Carolina. Washington, D.C. I used to live in some of these places.
Oh, it's impossible to define.
He's having a
Jimmy.
comedy routine as
Think of
well.
him as a simple kind of man, like in the Leonard Skinner song. He takes his time, doesn't live too fast. Troubles come, but they will pass. Find a woman and find love, and don't forget there's always someone above.
And not some Bob
There's
Dylan
many
prose.
sides to him. He's a nuclear engineer, woodworking carpenter. He's also a poet. He's a dirt farmer. If you told me he was a race car driver, I
He should
wouldn't
be on a dollar
surprised.
bill
It's up to every one of
or
us
something.
to make a basic decision. This is the kind of person that I want to be.
And he wouldn't even ask to be on a dollar bill. That's how great he is. But I would put him on one.
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.